The starship sat at the edge of the docking yard, almost forgotten. Its hull was scratched, dented, and streaked with the dust of many years. Rust crept along some of the older metal plates, and small pieces of machinery hung loose from the outer structure. The other ships around it gleamed like polished gems, engines shining and surfaces smooth. But this one looked old and useless. Its name, Voyager, was still faintly painted on the side, almost erased by time and neglect. Most of the alien traders who came to the starport looked at it and shook their heads. Some laughed quietly when they passed by. "Why would anyone want that old thing?" one of them said to a companion, his voice full of scorn. "It is not even worth the scrap metal," another added. "Maybe a human could use it. They always like old junk." They walked away, leaving the ship alone in its corner. The docking yard itself was busy with other ships. Alien crews were preparing cargo for trade, fueling vessels, and repairing minor damages. Humans were few in this sector, and most of them worked as technicians or small traders. One human in particular was walking near the abandoned ship. His name was Ethan Miller. Ethan was not like most of the humans in the yard. He was tall, with short brown hair and careful eyes that seemed to notice everything. He did not wear the expensive tools or shiny uniforms of the top engineers. Instead, his jumpsuit was faded and patched, with grease stains that showed he worked hard and often. He had a calm but focused way of walking, scanning everything around him as if he were already imagining what he could do with it. When he saw the old ship, Ethan paused. He walked slowly along its side, touching the scratched metal and inspecting the dented plating. Most people would have looked at it and walked away, but Ethan was curious. He crouched and looked under a loose panel. The wiring inside was old, messy, and half-burned in some places, but the core engines were still intact. He smiled slightly to himself. "I think I can fix you," he said quietly, almost like talking to an old friend. A small group of aliens nearby noticed him and whispered, "See, I told you humans like junk," one said. "They think they can make it useful." Ethan ignored them. He had learned a long time ago not to pay attention to the judgment of those who did not understand human creativity. Ethan went to the station office and asked about the ownership of the ship. The clerk, a tall alien with green skin and 3 eyes, looked confused. "It belongs to no one now," the clerk said. "It was abandoned years ago. The previous owner disappeared. Everyone has given up on it." "Can I buy it?" Ethan asked simply. The clerk raised an eyebrow. "You could try, but why? It is useless. You will be wasting your credits." Ethan smiled. "I like projects," he said. That was all he needed to say. The clerk shrugged and made the arrangements. Soon, Ethan had the ship in his name. He had bought it for a small fraction of what a functioning ship would cost. Most people in the yard were shocked when they heard. "You paid what?" one of the human traders whispered. "For that old thing?" Ethan did not answer. He only went back to the ship, ready to begin the work. The first days were hard. The ship had not been cared for in years, and almost everything was broken. The engines needed a complete rebuild. The control panels were dusty and corroded. The navigation system was offline. Even the air circulation and temperature controls were unreliable. Every day, Ethan climbed in and out of the narrow corridors, checking pipes, wires, and machinery. He worked from early morning until late at night, eating only small meals and drinking water when he had time. Some people watched him, curious. Most thought he would fail. Some even tried to offer advice. "You should just scrap it," one alien engineer said. "You will never get it working." Ethan listened politely but ignored the comment. He knew that humans often saw solutions differently. Where others saw damage, he saw opportunity. Where others saw limits, he saw ways to expand them. Ethan began by cleaning and repairing the engine room. He took apart the old fusion drive, piece by piece, and examined every component. Many parts were too damaged to reuse. He replaced them with parts he had brought from Earth, small machines that the aliens had never seen before. The fusion drive slowly began to hum again, not at full power, but enough to show life. As the days passed, he started on the ship's hull. Some of the panels were replaced, while others were reinforced. He worked carefully, balancing strength with weight, because he knew a heavier ship would be slower in space. He added small, hidden compartments in the hull for tools and emergency supplies. Little by little, the ship began to look less abandoned and more like something that could fly again. One evening, as the sun set over the docking yard, Ethan sat on the ship's roof and looked at the stars. He thought about the journey ahead. No one would believe it now, but he knew the ship could be restored. He imagined the crew he would gather, the missions they could take, and the adventures they might have. A small smile crossed his face. He felt a strange warmth, not from the sun, but from hope. It was not long before the first human arrived to help him. Her name was Lisa Carter. She had heard about Ethan buying the ship and was curious. Lisa was smaller than Ethan, but strong and clever. She had worked on ships before, though not as old or damaged as this one. She looked at the ship and then at Ethan. "You really think this thing will fly again?" she asked, not mockingly, but with genuine curiosity. "I know it will," Ethan replied calmly. "It just needs the right care." Lisa nodded. "All right, I'll help. Let's see what we can do." Over the next few weeks, Lisa became an important part of the restoration. She repaired the ship's navigation systems, rewiring panels and updating software that was decades old. She added improvements of her own, small things humans often thought of that aliens never did, like automatic sensors to detect problems before they became dangerous. Ethan and Lisa worked side by side, day and night, slowly bringing the ship back to life. Word of their work spread through the starport. Aliens stopped to look, sometimes whispering and shaking their heads. "Why do humans bother with that thing?" one asked. "It will never be fast or strong enough." But the humans ignored the talk. They kept working, trusting in their skills and their teamwork. One morning, as Ethan and Lisa were testing the engines, a small alarm rang in the control room. Smoke rose from a hidden vent. A minor fire had started in one of the older circuits. Lisa quickly turned the power down while Ethan ran to the panel, carefully replacing a burnt wire. It was a small problem, but it reminded them both that the ship still had risks. "Almost everything here wants to stop working," Lisa said with a laugh. "But somehow we keep it alive." Ethan smiled. "That's humans," he said. "We fix what others give up on." They spent the next few months in the same pattern. Repair, test, improve. Slowly, the old ship began to shine in ways no one expected. Its engines hummed smoothly, its control panels blinked with new life, and the hull gleamed after being polished and reinforced. When Ethan first opened the main airlock, fresh air circulated perfectly, a small but important sign that the ship was becoming something new. Other humans began to hear about the project. A few came by to help, offering small skills and advice. Daniel Brooks, a skilled pilot, joined to test the controls, while Mia Thompson, a navigation expert, helped reorganize the star charts. The small human team began to form, each member bringing unique skills that made the ship stronger and safer. The aliens in the docking yard began to notice. Some of them looked with surprise, others with suspicion. "It is alive again," one muttered. "But how?" "Humans do not have the resources they need." Another shook his head. "Perhaps it is not just skill, it is madness." Ethan ignored them all. For him, the work was not about proving anyone wrong. It was about giving life back to something that was forgotten. And in the quiet moments when the yard was empty and the stars shone above, he could almost hear the ship breathing, waiting for the day it would fly again. By the time the first part of the restoration was finished, the ship had changed. It no longer looked like a rusted relic. Its engines were strong, the hull reinforced, and the systems functional. The work was far from complete, but anyone who looked at the ship now could see it was different. It was no longer abandoned. It was alive. Ethan stepped back one evening, wiping sweat from his forehead, and looked at the ship. Lisa and the other human crew members were checking panels, testing instruments, and making small adjustments. He felt a sense of pride. Not just in the work, but in the idea that humans could take something others had given up on and make it extraordinary. "Tomorrow," Ethan said softly, "we start the next phase. This ship will not just survive, it will fly." For the first time in many years, the old Starship seemed to respond. Its engines thrummed faintly in anticipation. The humans around it were tired but determined. And the abandoned ship, once left to rot, now had hope. The next morning, the first light of the starport shone across the docking yard. The abandoned ship, now restored enough to hold life safely, gleamed faintly in the soft sunlight. Ethan Miller stood near the hull, checking the engines one more time before starting the day's work. Lisa Carter was already inside the control room, running diagnostics on the systems they had repaired the day before. "Engines look stable," Ethan said, speaking into the small radio connected to the crew. "Fuel flow is steady. Core temperatures are normal." "Good," Lisa replied. "I just finished checking the navigation array." There were some misalignments in the old star charts, but I fixed them. The sensors are ready for testing. Ethan nodded and climbed aboard the ship. The interior smelled faintly of oil and metal, but it was a good smell to him, the smell of work and progress. He moved carefully through the corridors, inspecting panels, wires, and machinery. Even though much of the ship had been restored, there were still areas that needed attention. Some of the smaller circuits were old and unreliable, and a few of the engine components were not perfectly aligned. But that was okay. Humans were good at fixing things other species considered too difficult. They began the work of upgrading the ship. Ethan wanted more than just a working starship. He wanted a vessel that could survive challenges no one thought possible. He called his human ingenuity simple problem-solving, but for aliens in the starport, it looked like magic. The first upgrades were practical. Ethan installed repair drones in hidden compartments throughout the ship. These small, self-guided machines could fix minor problems automatically, keeping the ship running without constant human intervention. He had built similar drones on Earth, but adapting them to alien technology took time. Lisa helped by rewiring the ship's power systems so the drones would have enough energy to operate continuously. Next, Ethan worked on the ship's defensive systems. The original design had weak shields and minimal weapons. He decided to reinforce the energy shields and add small but efficient weapons. Instead of relying on large, heavy cannons, he designed automated pulse emitters that could shoot bursts of energy with high accuracy. They were compact, light, and could be controlled with the ship's main computer. He installed them carefully, testing each one for reliability. While Ethan focused on the engines and defense, Lisa worked on communication systems and sensor arrays. She added redundant channels for navigation and long-range communication. That way, if one system failed, the ship would still be able to function safely. She also built in early warning sensors that could detect approaching ships or dangerous space anomalies. By midday, Daniel Brooks, the pilot, arrived. Daniel was tall, with short black hair and steady hands. He had flown many types of ships in dangerous zones, and his experience made him perfect for testing the restored vessel. "I heard you humans are trying to make a ship fly again," Daniel said with a smile. "Let's see if it's ready for a test." Ethan nodded. "Not quite ready for full flight, but we can run some systems and see how the engines respond." Daniel climbed into the pilot's seat while Ethan and Lisa watched from the control room. He turned the controls carefully, feeling the engines hum beneath him. At first, the ship moved slowly, just a few meters above the docking platform. The vibration was smooth, the power steady. He smiled. "This is better than I expected," Daniel said. "The engines are strong and the ship responds quickly. Whoever worked on this did a good job." "That would be us," Ethan said simply, smiling. "Humans don't give up on what others consider useless." Mia Thompson, the navigation expert, arrived later in the afternoon. She was small, with quick hands and sharp eyes. She began mapping the nearby sectors, updating charts, and ensuring the ship's navigation systems would be accurate. She also suggested adding a few modifications to the ship's guidance system. "These aliens never think about human-style maneuvers," she said. "We can make this ship move faster and more unpredictably in tight spaces." Ethan and Lisa listened carefully. Humans often thought differently, and their ideas were sometimes dismissed by aliens as strange or unnecessary. But Mia's suggestions were practical and clever. They began installing the adjustments, making the ship more agile and responsive than any of its original designs had been. Over the next few weeks, the human team worked tirelessly. Each day brought new challenges. Some parts of the ship were still fragile and needed careful attention. Wiring failed unexpectedly, panels cracked, and small fires started in hidden circuits. But the humans never panicked. They repaired, replaced, and improved every problem. Slowly, the ship began to feel alive. Ethan often found himself marveling at how humans could see solutions where others saw obstacles. When a sensor failed, he did not simply replace it. He redesigned it, improving its sensitivity and efficiency. When a section of the hull was too heavy, he lightened it while keeping it strong. Every small adjustment made the ship better, faster, and safer. One evening, as the crew rested after a long day, Ethan and Lisa discussed the next step. "I think it's time we test the shields," Ethan said. "We need to see how they hold up under pressure." Lisa nodded. "I agree. I finished the upgrades to the energy conduits. The shields should now handle much more power than before. We can run a simulation first, then a small live test. The simulation began. Ethan activated the shield controls, and a faint blue glow appeared along the hull. The energy field shimmered and stretched, covering the ship completely. They ran the program, sending virtual attacks at the ship's systems. Laser bursts, collisions, and energy surges hit the shields, and the ship absorbed them all without damage. "It's holding," Lisa said with a satisfied smile. "Better than I thought it would." Ethan nodded. "Good, now for a real test." The next day, they took the ship to an empty sector outside the starport. The engines roared to life as the vessel lifted off. Daniel piloted carefully, testing acceleration and turns. The shields responded perfectly to simulated debris and energy bursts from the environment. The pulse emitters worked as designed, firing harmless bursts at target markers. Ethan, Lisa, Daniel, and Mia watched with excitement. The old, abandoned ship had transformed into a vessel capable of handling situations far beyond its original design. It moved gracefully, faster and smarter than anyone had expected. As they returned to the starport, word began to spread. Aliens in the docking yard stopped and stared. "That ship, it moves," one said quietly. "It is alive again." Another shook his head. "How can humans do this? They have no resources like ours, no advanced technology." Ethan ignored them. He knew the work was not done. The upgrades were only the beginning. There were more tests, more improvements, and more challenges ahead. But he also knew that the human team was ready. That night, as the crew rested, Ethan walked through the corridors, checking each system once more. He touched the polished panels and the humming engines. The ship seemed to respond to him, almost as if it understood the care it had been given. He thought about the future. There would be dangers, of course. Other ships, space pirates, unpredictable storms, and hostile sectors. But humans had a way of thinking differently. They could turn the impossible into possible. And this ship, once abandoned and forgotten, would be a testament to that. Over the next weeks, the crew continued to test every system. Ethan added small but powerful improvements to the engines, making them more efficient. Lisa adjusted sensors and communications. Daniel tested flight maneuvers that no one had dared to try with the original ship. Mia charted new paths through space, showing how the vessel could move quickly and safely. Each test brought new discoveries. Sometimes the ship responded in unexpected ways, but the humans always found solutions. Other species watching would often shake their heads, unable to understand how humans solved problems so quickly. Humans did not follow the same rules. They used creativity, teamwork, and persistence. That was their strength. One afternoon, Daniel suggested a longer test. "Let's take the ship farther out beyond the asteroid fields," he said. "We need to see how it handles real space conditions." Ethan agreed. "Prepare for a 2-day run. Lisa, make sure all systems are ready. Mia, check the navigation paths. Daniel, I trust your piloting." The humans worked together, making final adjustments. The ship hummed with energy, ready to leave the starport behind. As they lifted off, the docking yard grew smaller beneath them. Aliens watched in surprise as the vessel moved with speed and grace. Ethan felt a quiet pride. The abandoned ship, once forgotten, was now more than a vessel. It was proof that humans could see value where others saw none. It was a symbol of ingenuity, persistence, and determination. The first long test would not be easy. There would be challenges, obstacles, and unexpected problems. But the humans were ready. They were not just restoring a ship. They were showing the galaxy that humans could take the abandoned and forgotten and turn it into something extraordinary. As the stars stretched out before them, Ethan looked at his crew. Lisa, Daniel, and Mia were focused and ready. Together, they would face whatever came next. And the ship, once abandoned, was ready to fly into a new future. The ship moved smoothly through space, leaving the starport far behind. Ethan Miller sat in the control room, watching the navigation screens carefully. The stars stretched endlessly around them, a dark canvas dotted with distant lights. It was quiet, except for the low hum of the engines and the faint beeping of sensors. Daniel Brooks, in the pilot's seat, guided the ship along the planned route. He was testing the new flight systems Ethan and the team had installed. The vessel responded quickly to every command, accelerating and turning with surprising agility for a ship of its size. "Engines are stable," Daniel said, his hands steady on the controls. "The ship handles better than I expected, feels almost alive." That's the idea, Ethan said, leaning back in his chair. We want it to be more than just a restored ship. We want it to adapt, to think ahead. Lisa Carter monitored the sensor arrays. All systems are functioning within optimal range. Communications are strong and the shields are holding steady. I think we are ready for a real test. Ethan nodded. Good, let's push it further. Daniel, take us through the asteroid belt near the Zorath system. It's dangerous, but it's the perfect place to see what the ship can do. The crew prepared for the challenge. Mia Thompson double-checked the navigation routes. The belt is dense, she said. There are moving asteroids, unstable rocks, and occasional small debris fields. We will need precise control to pass through safely, Daniel smiled. Then we'll test the human way, fast, careful, and smart. As the ship approached the edge of the asteroid belt, the sensors began to pick up incoming objects. Small rocks moved unpredictably, some larger than the ship itself. The pulse emitters were armed, ready to break smaller debris into harmless pieces. The shields were active, glowing faintly around the hull. Keep steady, Ethan said. Watch the readings, remember, don't panic. Humans find solutions when others freeze. The ship entered the asteroid belt. Rocks zipped past at high speeds, brushing close to the hull. Daniel skillfully maneuvered the vessel, tilting, twisting, and accelerating in ways the original ship could never have done. The pulse emitters fired automatically, breaking some of the smaller rocks before they could hit. The shields absorbed minor collisions, glowing brighter with each impact. Lisa monitored the systems closely. Hull integrity is holding. Energy reserves are stable. The ship is responding well to all threats. Mia adjusted the navigation in real time, rerouting through that cluster on the left, calculating fastest path to avoid a collision. As they moved deeper into the belt, a larger asteroid appeared directly in their path. It was too big to destroy with the pulse emitters, and even the shields would only protect against a glancing blow. Daniel, we need a creative solution, Ethan said calmly. Daniel nodded. I have an idea, but it will require precise timing and full control of the engines. Ethan smiled. That's the human way. Go for it. Daniel accelerated the ship, using the engines to push off smaller rocks and change direction quickly. He guided the vessel to fly close to the surface of the large asteroid, using it almost like a ramp. The ship jumped over a cluster of smaller debris, landing safely on the other side. The crew held their breath as the maneuver finished. That worked, Mia said, astonished. I didn't think the calculations would hold in real conditions. That's humans, Ethan said simply. We don't just follow rules, we adapt. As they continued, the asteroid belt became denser. Rocks moved faster and more unpredictably. Suddenly, a sharp alarm rang in the control room. Sensors detected an energy anomaly nearby, a small band of alien pirates hiding in a cloaked ship. They've been watching, Lisa said, frowning. They may attack. Ethan leaned forward. We can't avoid them, but we can handle this. Ready, everyone. Always, Daniel said, gripping the controls. The pirate ship revealed itself, firing small energy bursts at them. The shields absorbed the initial attacks, but Ethan knew the ship needed more than defense. Activate the pulse emitters, he ordered. Target their engines and weapon systems. Lisa, reroute power to the shields and sensors. Mia, find their weak points. The humans worked in perfect coordination. The pulse emitters fired, striking the pirate ship's engines and causing it to slow down. The shields held steady despite the repeated attacks. Daniel maneuvered the ship in ways the aliens did not expect, twisting, banking, and using the asteroid belt for cover. The alien crew tried to follow, but the human ship was faster and smarter. Every maneuver, every adjustment, seemed unpredictable to the attackers. Ethan's modifications to the engines allowed the vessel to make quick directional changes that the pirate ship could not match. Focus fire on their left engines, Mia called. We can disable them without risking a collision. Daniel angled the ship and fired a pulse. The alien ship shuddered and lost control. Its shields faltered as the engines sputtered. The humans moved past, avoiding further fire. The pirates were forced to retreat, disappearing back into the asteroid belt. The crew let out a collective sigh of relief. Ethan smiled faintly. Good work, everyone. The ship performed perfectly. That's the difference humans make. Lisa wiped sweat from her forehead. I still can't believe it. We just faced an actual attack and the ship handled it flawlessly. Daniel grinned. It's all about using what we have. The ship is old, but it's been upgraded in ways the aliens never thought of. That's our advantage. Mia looked at the screens, still cautious. We need to continue testing. There could be more threats ahead and the ship must be ready. Ethan nodded. We will, but today we proved something important. Humans can take what is abandoned and turn it into something extraordinary. As they exited the asteroid belt, the stars opened up around them. Space seemed calm again, but Ethan knew challenges would not stop. There would be more obstacles, more pirates, and more dangers, but the ship had passed its first real test. The crew worked together to repair minor damages and check systems after the attack. Some panels were scratched, and a few pulse emitters needed recalibration, but the ship remained strong and operational. Ethan made a mental note to add more protective measures and faster response algorithms. Over the next few days, they continued to explore the sector. The ship's engines allowed rapid movement through asteroid clusters, and the shields protected against debris and unexpected impacts. Every time a challenge appeared, the humans adapted, finding solutions where others would have panicked or fled. During one test, they encountered a dense field of ice asteroids. The cold and reflective surfaces made navigation difficult, and sensors were temporarily blinded by the sunlight bouncing off the ice. "Slow down," Ethan ordered. "Use manual controls." "We can't rely on sensors alone." Daniel carefully maneuvered the ship, following Mia's updated visual charts. Lisa monitored the power systems to make sure the engines did not overheat. They moved slowly and steadily, avoiding collisions by a few meters. The ship glided through the icy field, proving once again that human adaptability was stronger than any automated system alone. By the time they returned to open space, the crew felt a sense of accomplishment. The abandoned ship had not only survived, but it had also surpassed expectations. Its engines were strong, its shields reliable, and its weapons systems ready. More importantly, it had proven that humans could think and act differently, solving problems that other species considered impossible. Ethan looked around at his team. Lisa, Daniel, and Mia were tired but proud. Each one had contributed to the ship's success in their own way. Together, they had transformed a forgotten vessel into a functional, powerful, and intelligent ship. "I think the ship likes humans," Daniel said with a grin. "It listens to us, responds to us, and even surprises us sometimes." Ethan chuckled. "It's not the ship that matters. It's what humans can do with it. Ingenuity, persistence, and teamwork, that's why we succeeded." Lisa nodded. "And we're just getting started. There are more improvements to make, more challenges ahead, but now we know we can handle anything." Mia added, "The galaxy will never expect what we humans can do with an old ship." Ethan smiled and looked out at the stars. The abandoned ship, once forgotten and left to rot, had now become a symbol of human creativity and determination. Its engines hummed softly, shields glowed faintly, and pulse emitters stood ready. But more than that, it had a crew that believed in it, and in themselves. As they plotted a course back to the starport, Ethan knew the ship's first test was only the beginning. Soon they would face even greater dangers, explore deeper into space, and meet beings who had never seen humans achieve what they had. But for now, the ship moved smoothly through the stars. The abandoned vessel had found new life in human hands. And the galaxy, though unaware, was about to see the true power of human ingenuity. Ethan leaned back, confident. Whatever challenges awaited, humans would face them, and they would not just survive, they would thrive. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a canvas for human skill and creativity. The ship, once discarded, now had a future, and its human crew was ready to shape it. The ship moved smoothly through space, heading back toward the starport. Ethan Miller sat in the control room, watching the stars stretch past. The tests in the asteroid belt and the icy sectors had been difficult, but the ship had performed perfectly. The crew was tired, but they were proud. "Everything looks good," Lisa Carter said, scanning the systems. "Engines are stable, shields are strong, and weapons are ready if we need them. The ship handled everything exactly as we designed." Daniel Brooks, sitting in the pilot's seat, gave a small smile. "I still can't believe how well it moves. It's fast, responsive, and strong. The aliens won't know what hit them if we need to defend ourselves." Mia Thompson checked the navigation screens one last time before entering the starport's approach. "We're on course. Should be clear for docking in a few minutes. Everyone ready?" Ethan nodded. "Ready. Let's see how the starport reacts to what humans can do." As they entered the docking area, a crowd had already gathered. Aliens and humans alike paused in their work, staring at the ship. It was no longer the rusty, abandoned vessel that had once been ignored. The hull shone with fresh metal, the engines glowed faintly, and the pulse emitters and shields looked powerful and advanced. A tall alien trader whispered to his companion, "Is that the same ship?" It looks alive." Another shook his head. "Humans, how did they do this? I thought it was useless." Ethan ignored the comments. He had never cared about what others thought. Humans had a way of seeing possibilities where others only saw limits. That way of thinking had restored this ship, made it stronger, and made it ready for challenges. They moved slowly into the docking platform. Daniel guided the ship carefully, making sure the landing was smooth. The engines hummed softly, and the shields deactivated once they were safely docked. A small group of humans gathered nearby, clapping and cheering. They had heard about Ethan's project and were amazed at what the human crew had accomplished. Lisa, Daniel, and Mia stepped out first, smiling at the crowd. Ethan followed, wiping grease from his jumpsuit and adjusting his tools. An alien official approached cautiously. His green skin shimmered in the sunlight, and his 3 eyes watched Ethan closely. "You restored this ship after all these years? It was considered worthless." Ethan smiled calmly. "It wasn't worthless, it just needed the right care. Humans have a way of seeing potential in what others discard." The official stared for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "Impressive, very impressive." Word of the restored ship spread quickly throughout the starport. Traders, engineers, and pilots came to see it. Some whispered in disbelief, some shook their heads in admiration. The ship had survived its first real tests in space and returned with proof that humans could do what others thought impossible. Ethan and his crew began showing the ship's upgrades to anyone who was curious. Lisa demonstrated the improved navigation system, which could adjust in real time to moving obstacles and dangerous sectors. Daniel explained the agile engines, capable of fast and precise maneuvers. Mia showed the sensors and early warning systems, which could detect threats long before other ships could. The aliens were amazed. They had never seen a ship operate like this. Its speed, agility, and defenses were beyond their expectations. They had assumed that humans were small and weak compared to their advanced technology, but this ship proved otherwise. One trader, a tall alien with metallic feathers, asked Ethan quietly, "How did you think of all this?" Ethan smiled simply. "Humans have a way of solving problems differently. We look for solutions where others see obstacles. We adapt, we work together, and we don't give up. That's why this ship works." The alien blinked, surprised by the simplicity and truth of his words. I see. "Humans are clever," Ethan nodded. "We can be, and this ship is just the start." As the day went on, more and more people came to see the vessel. Some had once laughed at it, calling it useless. Now they looked at it with admiration and a hint of fear. It was clear that humans could turn what others discarded into something powerful and valuable. Ethan gathered his crew in the control room. "We've done well," he said, "but we're not finished. There's still work to do, more upgrades, more testing, and more missions ahead." "This ship can be even better," Lisa smiled. "I'm ready, let's see what else we can do," Daniel nodded. "And we can explore more dangerous sectors. No one will expect a human ship to handle them like this." Mia added, "And we'll prove that humans can adapt to anything the galaxy throws at us." The team continued their work over the next few weeks. They improved the engines further, reinforced the shields, and fine-tuned the weapons. Ethan even added small innovations no one had thought of before, like hidden storage for emergency supplies and automatic repair systems that could fix minor damage while the ship was in motion. Other species continued to watch in amazement. Aliens who had once dismissed the vessel now approached cautiously, asking questions and trying to understand the human methods. Ethan answered simply, explaining the logic and the approach without bragging. Humans did not need to boast. Their results spoke for themselves. During one demonstration, a group of alien pilots tried to challenge the ship with simulated attacks. They assumed the humans could not handle advanced maneuvers or rapid decision-making, but the human crew adapted instantly. Daniel piloted through the obstacle course with speed and precision, Lisa adjusted systems on the fly, and Mia predicted enemy movements accurately. The alien pilots could not keep up. Ethan watched calmly. "Remember," he said quietly to the crew, "humans see possibilities others ignore. That's why we succeed." By the end of the week, the ship had gained a reputation throughout the sector. It was no longer just a restored vessel, it was a symbol. Traders, engineers, and pilots talked about it in hushed tones. The human ship, they said, they can turn nothing into something extraordinary. Even officials in the starport took notice. They invited Ethan and his crew to a meeting to discuss their achievements. The humans explained how they had repaired, upgraded, and improved the ship. They described their teamwork, problem-solving, and innovations. The officials listened carefully, realizing that humans were more capable than they had ever imagined. "You have proven that humans are valuable beyond measure," one official said. "Your methods are unconventional but effective. The galaxy should take note." Ethan nodded. "We just do what humans do best. We work hard, think creatively, and never give up, that's all." When the meeting ended, the crew returned to the ship. They walked through the corridors, checking systems and making minor adjustments. The vessel hummed with life, a living example of human skill and determination. As night fell, Ethan stepped outside onto the docking platform, looking up at the stars. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but humans had proven themselves. Even the abandoned ship had become a testament to their ingenuity. Lisa joined him. "It's amazing to see what we've done," she said quietly. Ethan smiled. "It's more than amazing, it's proof. Humans can take what others discard and make it extraordinary, and we're just getting started." Daniel and Mia appeared beside them, tired but happy. The crew stood together, looking at the ship they had restored and improved. It had survived neglect, danger, and doubt. Now it was strong, capable, and ready for whatever the galaxy could throw at it. A group of aliens passed by, stopping to look. They whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. "Humans, they are not weak," one said. "They can create wonders from nothing." Ethan heard the words but did not reply. He knew that actions spoke louder than words. The ship, fully restored and upgraded, was proof enough. The next day, the crew prepared for a test mission beyond the sector. They would explore uncharted space, test the ship's limits, and continue to prove that humans could face challenges no one else dared to. Ethan checked the systems one last time. "We have come a long way," he said, "and there is still much to do, but this ship is ours and it shows the galaxy what humans can achieve." Lisa adjusted a control panel. "Let's go then, the universe is waiting," Daniel grinned, "and they won't know what hit them." Mia laughed quietly. "Time to show them the human way." The ship lifted off smoothly, engines humming with power. The stars stretched endlessly ahead. The abandoned vessel, once forgotten and dismissed, was now alive, upgraded, and ready to face the galaxy. Ethan leaned back, confident. Humans had proven themselves. They had turned the discarded into the extraordinary, and the galaxy, whether it knew it yet or not, would never underestimate them again. As they soared through space, the crew worked together, systems hummed perfectly, and the ship moved with agility and strength. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, determination, and teamwork. Ethan looked at the stars ahead, knowing that the future held endless possibilities. Whatever dangers, challenges, or mysteries they faced, humans would face them with courage, creativity, and persistence. And this ship, restored and upgraded by human hands, would lead the way. The abandoned starship had become a legend. And the humans who restored it had shown the galaxy the true meaning of ingenuity, teamwork, and hope. Nobody wanted it. Then a human mechanic restored the abandoned starship.